So now I'd like to invite up Mary McEvoy, who is VP at Pepsico and also one of the founders of the LEAP program when it launched about 2 years ago. And Mary came across this presentation on her travels, and she liked it, and she said she recommended it for this group, and she said, I think this is something that we could use, and all the women would like it. So come on up, Mary, and let's talk about maximizing your personal power. So you've got your own mic, so you don't need this.
Yeah, I'm loud enough anyway, so. Okay. Yeah, we have a lot of chairs around. So ladies, thanks so much for the time tonight, and I recognize many of you may be wondering, why are you here? What are you going to get from tonight? Should I have gone shopping? I just offer, and this is what we're going to touch on tonight, that hard work gets you a good deal of where you need to go, but it doesn't get you everywhere, right? So, and we'll go into some of those reasons why tonight, and also talk about maybe what we can do about it. So a little bit about myself. I'm from Kilkenny. I know my accent sounds probably mid-Atlantic. I've been here 25 years, so I kind of can't win for losing. I go home, I get accused of being a Yank. I'm here and I get told I'm Australian or German or something like that. But I came over here after I finished college, started working in corporate America a couple of years later. I've been working in a corporate American environment. So I'll say apologies in advance for some of the corporate speak, but I've been in a corporate environment for about the last 21 years or so. So I'll say about 15 years or so, I was at a kind of pivotal juncture in my career where I was looking to go for this job. I had a fair feeling I wasn't going to get it. I was working in an environment where it was pretty male-dominated, not particularly conducive to women. And I'm not a big self-help person, but I picked up this book. I was frustrated, I was annoyed, I was a lot of things, right? And it was called Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. And what we're going to talk on tonight is a little bit of that, which is hard work doesn't get you all where you need to go. So women will put their heads down, work away, and think, hey, it's all going to work out. The reality is it doesn't. There's other stuff that goes along with that. And, I probably would have liked to have found this a little earlier in my career, but I came to it in my own time, right? And as a consequence, I've tried to build on that and share learnings and learn as much as I can. And I've gone through my career, both from a career aspect and then also from many community organizations that I've been involved with. And that's really where LEAP came from, right? Was a desire to give back to women, figure out how to best help the community and overall empower. So I think we all have a lot in common, right? You're here very much because you want to improve yourselves, improve your communities. So we're going to touch on, as I said, a little bit of that tonight. So a few things we'll touch on. One is the leadership gap for women. You're all working or in communities where women are probably not in positions of power, no different in corporate America or many corporations. We're going to talk about what women do sometimes, all of the time, maybe, to undermine our own power, and then spend a little time in breakout groups and saying, what do we recognize in ourselves and what can we do differently to adjust that? So unfortunately, I grew up on PowerPoint, so we're going to have a couple of little PowerPoints. So these are US stats. It's probably even less rosy, and I'm say that somewhat cynically if you look at Ireland. But women, almost 51% of the US population, graduate with 57% of college degrees. From a community elected representative point of view, 24% of Congress, right? So I take no credit for what we're going to talk about today. Worked with this company recently, they're called Flint Heath Holt, and they're an organization that consultancy that focuses on empowering women. Published a book called Break Your Own Rules. We have a copy for everyone here tonight. We're going to touch on a little bit of this tonight, but I'd say take it home. You're all going to be, I assume, interacting with each other post the trip. And I would say spend some time, read it, pull out of this what resonates with you, and figure out how do you apply it. They talk about 6 rules, right? I'm going to focus on number 3 for the sake of time and the audience we have here. 2 reasons why I picked this. 1, women are particularly susceptible to being modest. And secondly, you combine that with being Irish, it's even like doubly worse. Because God forbid anyone would get ahead of themselves. Geez, she's awful full of herself, right? How many times have we all heard that and thought that, right? But the point is we do ourselves a little bit of disservice. So this is really about how do we all, and I put myself in that cohort too, because I'm not where I need to be. How do we project our personal power and ensure that we really reach our full potential? So, I'd say, right, there's a scale, and right, you've being arrogant on one side, full of yourself, whatever. Then you've being modest, and there's a balance, right? So we're not talking about going to one extreme about being massively full of yourself, because God knows you can't grow up in Ireland and be full of yourself. That'll get beaten out of you, knocked out of you pretty soon. But on the other hand, being modest means you're probably not taking credit for what you're doing, whether it's at home, at work, in your community. So it's really about a little bit of kind of introspection and figuring out, what do we do that may somewhat limit ourselves and inhibit ourselves. So I'm going to throw up, so anyway, that's pretty much what I try to say. So I'm going to throw up a few things here, right? And take a look at it, see if there's anything that you may recognize here. So these are verbal power robbers, right? That can undermine our power. I state things as questions, not statements. I talk about what I'm not good at. Anyone empathize with these? My voice goes up at the end of a statement. So these are things we all do for cultural reasons, unconscious reasons, but they're cues that can really trip us up and inhibit us as we really come to meetings, come to any places where you need to make an impact. And then as we move from the verbal, we go to the non-verbal, right? So what do we do with our cues? Do we tilt our head? Do we smile too much? I happen to smile a lot, and maybe sometimes I smile too much. Do we not claim our space? Meaning, are we kind of slouched down, feeling very small? Are we like upstanding and claiming the space, arms on the table, and speak too softly or too fast? So I just put these out here just more as kind of thought starters, so you can have a think and think about, of all of these, is there something you do more than others? And maybe what can you talk about doing a little differently? So some other non-verbal power robbers. And the last one I particularly like, volunteering to fetch or bring. Don't volunteer to fetch the coffee or get the water. Multitasking when in meetings, appearing harried, frazzled, kind of coming up late. Always show up a bit early to the meeting and come a little after, right? Generally, I'm figuring by the cues and nods that people resonate with these, right? This resonates with people. So I'm afraid we're going to do the old American breakout corporate thing, right? And we'll just do this for 10 minutes. And as I said, this was more just to get some thoughts out there. I'd like you to kind of think about it as you're talking in your groups. I think we wanted to break into 6 groups of 8 or so. And I just say spend a little bit of time talking amongst yourselves, right? Because I think the power of having the collective here is to be able to share stories, and maybe people have tips in terms of, here's what I've done to overcome smiling too much or whatever you recognize in yourself. So we'll hand out the list and spend a little bit of time saying, hey, this is what I recognize in myself, and maybe there's some situations that trigger that more than others. But more importantly then, what can you do differently? And my suggestion is, don't pick everything, right? One thing that you say, hey, this is what I'd like to work on, and maybe spend a bit of time saying, how could I do that? Could you help me? Could you spot me in meetings? So if you happen to be from the same town or group and train on the same training course as a person, just buddy up with them and say, hey, I go into a meeting or I go into this and I know I do this. So be my spotter, right? And tell me when I'm tilting my head or whatever. And also have a think about women you may work with or mentor other women in the community. And think about what you may see with this. But I'd say mostly kind of 1 and 2, I'd say concentrate on those. And again, right, we're not looking to solve for world hunger tonight. We would like actually, and we'll volunteer, or somebody will be voluntold, I think, from each of the groups, just to give maybe a quick recap of the themes or what you heard, what you learned, etc., as we break out.